Hello, thank you for watching our video here today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about driving IT success with the right training. So my name is Brian Carlson. I'm with ExitCertified. I've been in the IT training industry for about 20 years now, and I've seen a lot of trends come and go. And I can certainly say that what we're seeing now with cloud and analytics and a lot of the other technologies that are out there is definitely the fastest paced and most complicated one that I've seen customers race to try to adopt. And so I'm excited to talk a little bit more today about what we've been doing here at ExitCertified for the past few years to help customers in those situations get where they need to get, and just to share a little bit about our approach and what we're hearing customers tell us, and how we can help you if you find yourself in a similar situation. So here's a quick agenda for today. So everybody's heard digital transformation. That's a bit of a buzzword, and I think the best way to sum it up is, the products that customers and consumers are buying today, the end consumer, they're or consuming, they're very heavily focused on things that are supported by IT. So, if you go out and buy things online, if you are using social media, at work, so much is in the cloud now. So much of our entertainment comes from these platforms that are very, very reliant on digital solutions. And so it's no surprise we see numbers like we see here on this slide, which come from a variety of sources like IDC and Gartner and IT Pro Portal. But they talk about 44% of business leaders are working to accelerate their adoption of these new technologies. Over half of IT spend is on new technology. It's with the move to the cloud, for example, the spend isn't necessarily going to a data center anymore. It's going to building new products and adopting new technologies, because ultimately the products that customers and consumers want to see are digital. You don't go to the branch, a bank branch anymore, or not as often at least. You do it on your phone right in front of you, right? And that's all IT, and that's what companies are racing to try to get to, because that's how they really can be competitive. And so with any technology shift, you've got to adapt your workforce to understand it and to be able to use it properly. And things are moving so quickly, and there's so many options out there, and it's tough to do. And so when we talk to customers, and we spend a lot of time on the phone all week long talking to these customers and listening to these customers, and here the biggest challenges we hear come from them in no particular order, because it does vary by customer. The first one is sourcing and managing their training. In the new world, their vendors are still very relevant, but it's more and more, it's multi-vendor and open source. And open source can be really tough to go find a good training solution for. And then there's the complication of wrapping them all together and tying them into a solution that fits what they're doing. And so finding that right training, finding the good resources is a challenge. And that's one area that we've certainly seen customers struggle. Obviously, employee skill sets are out of date. This is really significant when you talk about taking IT out of the data center and putting it into the cloud. And when you talk about building applications and systems using microservices, as opposed to old monolithic applications, you really have to go and completely reskill people that have been doing something a certain way for 20 years. You've got to get past the fear, and you've got to help them get to those new skill sets so that they can contribute in the modern IT world. They're different. The IT employees are difficult to find. This is true across a lot of different industries like finance and across the economy. There's a bit of a labor crunch, especially for the higher skilled jobs, and that's certainly true for IT. And so it's tougher and tougher to go out and hire those people because they're not as readily available. And then adding to all that is things change so quickly. So once they get the right people, they get them trained, they get the right training program in place. Well, you turn the corner 6 months, a year later, and there's something new. And so just keeping up with the rapid pace of change is something that's difficult too. And so over the past few years, we've developed a model for how we work with customers to help them get the training they need now and prepare for the training they need in the future, and then make those changes when they're ready to make the changes as quickly and seamlessly as possible. And so we developed the 5-stage life cycle that we use with our customers as we go through the ongoing challenge of keeping their folks trained on the latest technologies so they, as a company, can stay competitive. First step is to gather requirements. And when I talk about gathering requirements, I don't necessarily mean the specific skills each of the contributors or the employees is going to need. And that certainly is an important piece. But the first step is really understanding where that customer is going. What's their strategy? What's the future for this group? Which platforms are they going to move to in 3 months, 6 months, a year? And where are they trying to go as a business? And so once we can understand that, that really helps us to make recommendations and align resources who can help them get their staffs trained with the lowest cost, both in time out of the classroom as well as obviously budget. So that's the first step that we take, is really getting in and understanding the organization's goals and strategy, as well as the particular division or group or team where they're trying to go long term. Once we have a good understanding of that, we know who the proper SMEs to bring in, who the proper instructors are to bring in. And so once we've got that first step done, and we can line up the right instructors, and then we can get into understanding the individual skills that everybody's going to need in order to be able to do the things that the company needs them to be able to do to ultimately reach those objectives. And so we work with our SMEs to get into those skills and identify what's really needed. This number really gets to that second step. And the next one is, a lot of times we run into customers who don't always realize the depth of need in their teams, or they maybe don't realize that there are certain skills that are possessed in part of the organization, but not in another part of the organization. And the number we see here from Gartner represents that as 70% of employees don't feel like they have the skills they need for their jobs. And we certainly see that to come true when we get into these conversations with customers, is that there are big skills gaps, and the customers have learned that if they can quickly close those gaps, they're going to deliver projects faster, less error and rework, lower cost. All those things start to come true once they have started to enable their people with the right skills. So the third step in our approach, and once we've understood their strategy and we've taken one or more of our instructors to understand the skills gaps, is build a training plan. And when we build the training plan, we it's typically involve vendor solutions, but almost always now involves some sort of open source technology. And so when we put these together, we make sure to marry the two together, and to build the courses and to build the training plans so that it makes the most of the customer's time in the classroom and out of the office, as well as obviously budget. So that's a very important piece, is building that training plan that focuses on the most important topics: job role, particular teams, objective, maybe a platform they're supporting, things like that. The fourth step is to go in and deliver the training. We deliver in a lot of different ways. Predominantly over the past year and a half, it's pretty much all been live virtual. But we're starting to get back to in-person training, and that has certainly historically been a big piece of our business and how we work with customers. And so when we go in, we deliver this training. What we focus there is obviously on doing an excellent job of executing on the training plans that we've put together in phase 3. We do deliver in some kind of hybrid formats, if you will. Not everything is all day in person or all day online. We've seen more and more customers asking about taking, say, a 3-day class and taking that same amount of content, but delivering it over 5 days, say. Or maybe doing a group A in the morning, group B in the afternoon, so folks can stay engaged with the work and productive and supporting whatever they're doing. We also do things like mentoring or office hours. We do lab time. A popular option for bigger programs is building case studies. And when we build those case studies, we try to mirror something that they're doing in at work to make it as relevant as possible. Obviously, we use the same technologies and tool sets that they use on the job, but we try to take them from start to finish so they can really visualize how these new technologies are going to work inside of their environment. So in addition to the IT groups and their recognition of the need to bring these new skills into the organization. Learning and development folks, folks that are watching over the entire organization to be sure that the company can stay competitive, they have identified upskilling and reskilling in IT as one of the top priorities. Like I mentioned before, more and more a product that a company is putting out there is, at least in part digital, and so that's a bigger and bigger piece of the organization's need to stay competitive and relevant and make sure their products are engaging for their customers. And so it's no longer just IT needing to keep systems up and running and make sure email's not down and the databases are working. It's more and more, hey, we've got to have these technologies in our organization in order to be competitive and to bring products to market that customers want to buy. And so these new skills are a top priority of organization's overall learning and development teams. The last step, and this is kind of an ongoing step, so it's a bit misleading that it's at step 5, but it's continuous improvement. And in most of an IT audience is going to understand what that means, but it's very relevant inside of a training program as well, for 2 big reasons. One is, sometimes we learn as we go. When we build a training plan and we deliver the first few classes, sometimes student feedback or instructor feedback informs us of some things that maybe were overlooked, or some things that can be improved, or things that can be added that maybe we didn't identify on the first go round, or a lot of times customers have shifted. And so we want to make sure we take that student feedback and instructor feedback and we adjust the training to meet those changes. And then second, obviously at the end of the program, when we look back at what we did, we do a debrief call at the end of the program or at certain milestones throughout the program to make sure we're hitting the mark, and also to adjust where necessary so we can adapt to change in focus, new technologies, change in priorities, those kinds of things. And so we're continually looking at what we're doing and looking for ways we can do it better, working with our customers to see what's changed, how we can adjust with them. So continuous improvement is a big piece of what we do, especially on larger programs, to be sure they're tracking with the customer and the customer's organizations. So back to the hiring new talent problem that a lot of customers are seeing. Obviously, you don't have to, hopefully don't have to rehire if you're not losing people. And so a big focus is to keep people with the organization. And so one of the things that was found by LinkedIn Learning is that if you focus on training and development, you have a 2x longer employee tenure at a company. So the way that typically happens is employees start to see training as an opportunity for mobility internally. They see it as a customer investing, or a company investing in their employees, and taking an interest in them to continue to develop their skills. And when employees feel that way, they are going to stick around longer. When they feel like the company's got a stake inside of in them as an individual, they're going to be more productive and going to have less problems with attrition. A couple case studies or customer success stories that we wanted to just touch on, just to give some real world examples. The first one's a large bank that operates globally, and they have a huge variety of needs. Everything from programming languages like Java and Spring to cloud platforms like AWS and Google. Obviously, container-driven technologies like Kubernetes, microservices, Docker. And then in addition, they're doing a lot around machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science. We talked a bit before, companies are having to use those technologies just to stay competitive. And more IT groups are starting to be brought into those kinds of projects because a lot of times they do depend on a programming skill set or some kind of platform that allows them to do the kinds of things that they need to do with the numbers to make their products insightful and relevant. And so this particular customer, we train thousands of people a year at this customer. They work with us to put together a comprehensive training program that involves all those technologies. So that's one really showcases our breadth of capability inside of advanced technologies. The next one is, this one more showcases our ability to move quickly This particular customer is a systems integrator whose customer was using some technologies like OpenShift and OpenStack, coincidentally, as well as getting, obviously with OpenShift, starting to dip their toe into Kubernetes and microservices. And so the systems integrator's customer was using these technologies, and they needed to quickly ramp a few hundred of their folks on these topics, these platforms, to be sure that when they got to the project at the customer site, a few months later, they had the knowledge and skills that they needed to be able to support this customer properly. So this one showcases that ability. In addition, on this particular engagement, from talking with the instructor after some of the classes, he came back and said, "Hey, these folks, their DevOps pipeline is also an area where we need to put some focus." And so we were able to put together a suggestion for this customer around training on Jenkins, as well as some other CI/CD tools that they were using, which they ended up having some interest in. So that was a great example of our ability to take what we've learned in the classroom that the customer didn't even realize about themselves, bring it back to the customer, present it to them, and let them make a decision on if this was an important piece of their project or not, which ultimately in this case they did decide that that it was an important piece. So why Exit Certified? In addition to the things we've talked about here, or I've talked about here so far, a few of the other pillars are, first, instructor quality. We recognize that our instructors are our biggest asset, and their ability to bring the knowledge into the classroom, as well as engage with customers, is extremely important to be sure that customers are getting the skills that they need. Second, our delivery platform. More and more companies are using virtual training to deliver training these days, or virtual platforms to deliver training these days. But we've been doing it for almost 10 years, 8 or 9 years, I think. And we've always used a platform that allows us to have a two-way HD video, which makes our virtual deliveries much, much more engaging and robust than a one-way instructor video or no video. And so we have proven through student evaluations and instructor scores and quality scores that when customers use our platform versus another platform, that the quality scores go up, student engagement goes up, and the overall quality of the experience improves for students. And so this is an area that where we excel. The last one is just the end-to-end customer care. So we talked about that unique offering, ability to solution a lot of different technologies and stitch them all together. So those are three of the other reasons why a lot of customers choose to work with us and continue to work with us. So I appreciate everybody taking some time here today to watch this video. I'd love to catch up with you individually if you have questions or want to talk a little bit more about what we do and how we might be able to help your organization. You can find me on LinkedIn. There's a slide at the beginning, or you can go to exitcertified.com/talk to us and submit your information there, and we'll set some time up. Again, my name is Brian Carlson with Exit Certified, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video today.